Alright YouTubers, this video we are going to install the Noctua NH-D15 chromax black into our Gigabyte Aorus Elite AC Z490 motherboard. I'm going to take out my one of my personal favorite Noctuas. Why is it a personal favorite? Well, it's a really good cooler. To be honest with you, 140 millimeter fan on it, single tower. We're opting for dual towers, dual fans here with this guy, and I have already taken all the parts out of the box that we need to include the instructions. So we'll flash some shots of the instructions. Couple things, that we'll have to do in this. One, we're gonna have to take the fan out of here. Two is also ensuring these cables that you can access them. So let's start with getting this out of here. So Noctua does include this guy. We're not going to use it though. I prefer the magnetic tip one. So I've got to take this off. You won't be able to see this unless I rotate it, but we're going to disconnect the header for the CPU fan. Get out of there. And then on both sides of this, I'm going to tug on these brackets and this thing should pop off. Now, where am I going to put this CPU cooler? It's a good question. I don't know. I've got so many CPUs here. We will upgrade one of them. And now I've got to loosen up the screws. So this thing's been installed, uninstalled multiple times. And, whoops. Normally you would loosen one side a little bit, then loosen the other. Instead of doing what I just did. Whoops. Maybe I'm in a hurry. I don't know. So we'll want to clean this up. Definitely don't want to mess up the bed. So those of you that don't know, I'm still in Africa. I still don't have a great place to film these videos. So the bed it is, right? It's almost like having a workshop. And we'll clean this up better later, but for now, that's what it is. Alright, so there's a good chance that the base plate is exactly the same, which would be nice if we just swap those out. So I got to loosen these up. This is a different base plate. That would have also been awesome, but the mere fact this is chrome and the other's chromax black, right? So it would look kind of stupid. Now I've got to say, this is going to be an improvement. One thing I'm not a big fan with Noctua is the brown and tan look to it, but you can't doubt the performance. And this is going to be even better. So of course, we want to be gentle taking this stuff out of here. Best to take your time. Got to take these guys out. So you're going to see these again in a second. Matter of fact, I do honestly believe that's the same bracket. Let's see if it's the same bracket. Lo and behold, that is the same bracket. Could have left it in there. Oh well. Alright, so since this one's brand new, now you see that notch cut out in the back. You'll want to put this in. This only goes in one way, right? Properly. You can get it in another way, but it won't be the right way. So you can see right there, that cutout covers that. And voila, we're back to, pretty much back to where we were. Put our spacers back in. So that's always good to know that they use the same mounting brackets. Would we have saved much of a step? I don't know. So here's where, it's helpful to read your instructions. See, these brackets are pretty much, you know, they're pretty much identical, right? One's chromax. So if we were paying attention to which direction they were mounted previously, we would put them back that way. But if you don't know, one thing we've got to do here is take this fan out. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is look at these screws. How do you want this oriented? I know that I'm going to want it sitting like this. All right, this monster is going to be in here like this. I'm going to sit it down for a second. So what does that tell me? This bracket has to line up in this direction, okay? So we're going to take this out, put these back down, and hopefully that's in there right. Maybe it isn't. Alright, so we used these earlier. Now we've got to find the equivalent in our pack, little plastic sack. So, nope, this doesn't, this is not a resealable bag. So we got to find those exact parts. And it did have 4 spacers in there. You know it's going to not be funny, folks, is if those spacers were, how do we say, different size. Probably be smart to check that, right? Let's see. Alright, so I just double checked to make sure the spacers that I'm reusing are the same size, and they are. Now, this guy goes on here like so, and then these will slip over top. Now notice so far I've not taken the instructions out. That might be because I've already done this with the, I think it was the NH-D15 one of those. So we're hand tightening these for now. In a second I'll grab the Phillips. And we'll tighten it. So a lot easier to have this than the one that came with it, though it will work. Alright, so those are nice and tight. Now let's move around some stuff here, folks. Good question what these are for. Let's see, they might not be for, there's 2 Intel builds, by the way. This is we're doing LGA 1200. This is also what you would do for 1151. And just for those of you who are tracking, we have put the base plate in. We attached these guys, and we verified which direction we needed it. So you kind of see what they're showing you here, depending on how you want to put it in your case. If you had a test bench, it wouldn't matter, right? This is actually going to be sitting on a test bench, so it doesn't really matter. Could have did it either way I wanted to. And then they of course tighten those up. Now this spot is where we're going to put some thermal paste on here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take this fan out. So there, you know, there's more than one way to do this, right? You don't have to do it exactly in the order shown. So this guy, we've got to pop this off here, and probably easier to sit it down and do it. Wow, that thing's really in there, folks. This did, by the way, travel all the way probably from wherever it was manufactured to the US, and then all the way to Africa. Took a heck of a long time to get here. Alright, so that guy is ready to go. Okay, you see that? Why the fan is removed? We need to be able to access the fasteners down there, okay? Now, thermal paste wise, I don't know if I saw it in here, but usually Noctua recommends 4mm diameter. So let's read here. If they, yeah, right there, which is kind of funny because you could have 4mm in diameter and be really not very thick height-wise, right? And or you could have it, you know, you could have really thick or you could have really thin. So a lot of people use those spoons, which, you know, may be a better way to do this. Obviously you don't want to put too little, you don't want to put too much. And after years of doing this, whoops, we're out of thermal paste in this one, guys. So guess what? It means we got to open another tube. It's always good to have a spare bottle on hand. Alright, so normally I would clean this up and start all over again, but it is the same brand. And that is a hell of a lot more than I wanted to put on there, folks. So we'll clean that up a little bit and get some of that off. And you know what? You guys didn't even really see that anyways. So take a little bit of that off and we will alright, I'm not even sure if you guys even caught that. So we're going to redo it again. Shooting for 4mm diameter. I wiped off what I had put on there. And these tubes are good for 2 or 3 of these usually. But wow. So alright, let's try that again. Alright, so thermal paste, 4mm, 4 to 5mm diameter, and we don't want to go too much. There we go. That should be enough. Alright, now that we've done that, folks, guess what's coming next? CPU cooler can be put on there. So one thing you want to notice about this one, it has cutouts on both sides. It's pretty much, well, actually it looks pretty symmetrical. Don't see any differences in it. There is no noting, you know, that you need to put it on a certain direction. So, alright, so we've dropped it down. Now this is where this can get a little frustrating. Lining these guys up. Try and get a couple threads on this one and then find the other one. You do not want to over tighten one side before trying the other side. And they're on there, so now I can tighten this down. Taking your time, of course. This is not a horse race. It's more of a marathon, right? So I can already tell you this thing is freaking massive in comparison to what was on here. And you obviously hope to God that that means it will provide a lot more cooling. Now, one of the most important steps coming up is which side to put the this inside fan on. So we could figure this out on our own. I can tell you this fan has got to sit on the outside of this, okay? And it's going to sit over here. That's the intake side, exhaust, okay? So it would sit like that. Now that tells you you almost have 2 ways you could put this in, but you really want to follow that same pattern. So we're going to put it on this side, and this is the intake side, exhaust. So this is going to get air coming across here, and this is going to suck it in and push it out on the other side. Now, what we want to do, notice where our cable's at. This isn't too ridiculously long. Sometimes you almost have to wrap these around to get them out of, to hide them, but we're going to make sure that the connector is on the side that the CPU fan header's at, and we're going to drop this down, hopefully keeping these brackets in here without getting them caught on everything. And it's in place, and voila. So you do want to make sure it's sitting relatively low, right? Because if it's not low enough, you are not cooling off as much of your tower as you could. So the next step is actually to put your RAM in, and then you will put your CPU fan on. Now this is not really what you want to do with your RAM, but just for demonstration purposes, you can see we have one that has an RGB strip on it, and then the other does not. Looking at these, you can see how much taller one is, and you can see how much the cutaway is. Now when I put the CPU fan in here, you'll get an idea of what it looks like. So you can kind of see this is going to have to sit up high if you put in basically your next stick of RAM, right? This is going to have to sit up higher. Alright, so we've continued the pattern, and you can kind of see that, hey, one, you want to put probably low profile RAM in here and not the stuff with the pretty lights on it. Pretty RGB, right? It's going to be pretty hidden by the fan, and the fact that it sits up higher means this fan's going to sit higher than you really want it. Alright, so just by looking at it from this side, you can see that guy's sitting up pretty high. You know, we've got two towers. This one's going to get better cooling, potentially, than this guy is. But this is what it looks like, folks. Alright, so the other side, basically we're going to do the same thing, but now we have to grab our brackets, and I'm going to tell you, since we already have this example, we want it to look just like that. Okay, so this is where I get to cheat, folks. Once again, we want this cable on the other side, basically facing away, right? And if I can get these separated. So we know from looking at the other example, this guy's going to sit, one sits in here, and the other is going to sit in obviously the other hole, if I can get it in there. Probably a better way to do this than what I just did. Okay, so those are in. They're ready. That one's ready. Do the same thing over here. And boom. Now, I'm going to pull these nice and tight over this. And that is one sleek ass looking CPU cooler, huh? What's left to do, folks? Well, we don't want to grab that by the massive CPU cooler, even though I just did. That's a bad habit that I have. Try not to follow me with that. Sometimes, unfortunately, you have to do what you have to do to get these things in. And whoa, earthquake. You know, we actually do have earthquakes here. That was not an earthquake, obviously. That was a trip over the tripod. So I am using the tripod again, thank God, but it gets in the way. Now we have CPU optional, CPU fan. In this case, we are going to put one in there and the other in the opposite side. So some of you may not have two of these. They've included a basically a splitter. I get that in the right way. They have included a splitter. For some reason it doesn't look like it went in right. And you can plug these into one. Okay, and that's gonna do it, folks. I will. I might redo my I9. I may redo my I9-10850k benchmark videos showing the temps with this cooler, just so y'all can see it. In case you were thinking about buying this here CPU cooler. Thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please.